Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth. For those who don't know me, I'm Elizabeth from Sacred Earth and Storm School, and thank you for joining me. Um, Today, I would love to talk about, as we're about to go into the month of June, about the next really big movement of an outer planet that's happening quite soon, and that will be Jupiter going into the sign of Cancer on the 9th of June. So, virtually every month, we're having a big outer planet moving signs, which is a big deal, as we know generally, but to have them moving in succession, as it were, during this year is really quite extraordinary. And so, after this movement of Jupiter into Cancer, we'll next month in July we will have a big movement of Uranus again moving into Gemini, and virtually the day or so after that, um, Uranus will also be conjuncting the dwarf planet Sedna. So that will be a really, really big event, as we know. So let's talk about, I'd love to talk to you about this movement that is we're already sensing, because these are big energies of Jupiter, the planet of expansion, the planet of abundance, moving into Cancer on the 9th of June. So Jupiter is very happy in Cancer. It's what they call exalted in astrology. So this is a really, I feel, really wonderful aspect, helpful aspect for us during this time, that really is very disorientating on many levels at this time. There's such huge change going on, and some of it is really quite daunting. Um, if you're feeling from time to time really not like sinking, but really feeling quite out of your depth, don't feel alone. I must say, at times I just have a sense, me and my body, of how big these changes are and how unknown they are. And it's quite a transition. So this movement of Jupiter into Cancer, for me, feels like a really great opportunity, and maybe an easier aspect that's coming in to assist us. Um, so Jupiter, as we know, is um, it's a massive planet, um, and it's also known as a benign. It brings good luck, as it were, and it's actually the only planet during this time that will be in a water sign. So most of the other planets are moving into either air signs, or they're moving into fire. Like we've got Neptune already that went into Aries, and now very recently on the 25th, Saturn went into Aries as well, which is fire. Uranus will move into Gemini, which is air, and so there's not a lot of water, which is quite interesting because earlier in the year we had so much happening in Pisces, and there was literally this pileup of energies in Pisces, which is obviously a water sign. So, our relationship with the elements is really changing as we're moving through this year. But Jupiter will be in a water sign, which is Cancer. So Cancer is, as we know, ruled by the moon, and Cancer is about emotions. It's about the home, it's about security, and it's also about the inner child, so where we maybe have got some woundings, we're still holding on to some stories of emotional traumas that we've had, and that we sometimes can be a bit in victim consciousness of kind of defining ourselves and our identity and justifying our lives in terms of our past stories. And like someone was saying, the past doesn't exist. It's actually an energetic fact. The only thing that exists is the now, which is the eternal moment, which is ever existing. So the past is really just a belief. It's a mental construct that we make real and that we think is, has existence, but actually it doesn't. It's a belief, it's a mental, it's a mind experience that we've made real as a story. So it doesn't mean that it didn't have impact on us, but it's very different to thinking that it's something that's still alive. We're able to really detach from it and learn from it, but it doesn't have to influence us. So cancer, as I say, can, the lower aspects of cancer can be to feel very insecure, to feel over emotional. And the the big opportunity that we have with Jupiter going into Cancer is to expand our sense of who we are. So, and also our emotional capacity, to be able to bring in a sense of abundance into our emotions. Now, the reason why this beautiful planet Earth and us being here in human form is so incredibly interesting also for star beings and other planetary systems is that as humans we have a heart, we have the energy, we have very strong emotional energy, and so we can use this, and we haven't been so conscious of this, but we're becoming more and more conscious of it. We can use this emotional intensity that we have, this immense power that we have as a human. We can either use it negatively by being unaware of this emotional, almost generating power that we have, impact that we have, or we can use it positively when we become aware of it and we consciously start to choose and direct it in a positive way, in a conscious way, in a mature way. So this is the opportunity that Jupiter in Cancer brings for us, I feel. And with that, because also, you know, Saturn has gone into Aries, and Saturn is the planet of responsibility. It's saying we need to become, at the moment, there's a very strong requirement for us, an opportunity for us as humans, to become responsible for our impact, for our emotional impact. And that means that we have to become more aware of how we respond and what that creates or doesn't create. And as we can become more aware of it, we can become more conscious in directing it. So what's been coming up and what makes it tricky is that at this time, especially up to now, in the recent moons that we've had, the new moon and the full moon that we have before that, it triggered huge and deep emotional woundings that we hold in our bodies from generations, from past lives, from even existences on other planets. It's very, very deep. And because it's so deep, it's so unconscious. And so it comes up with such intensity. It's meant to come up. So there's almost been a kind of a feeling, which I'm sure you've experienced as well. I certainly have, where it's almost like uncontrollable. And in a way, we're not meant to control it because we've almost been keeping it so under wrap. We've been suppressing, it's like a pressure cooker, and we've been able to keep it under wraps. But now it's saying, no, this needs to come out and we need to heal it. We need to face it. We need to address it. And sometimes the only way for our bodies to bring it out is to bring it out with intensity. And that is very uncomfortable, and it's actually quite tricky because it's not that easy for us to direct it because we're so caught up in the energy of it. And a lot of this is to do with fear. So at this time, we're really looking to detach ourselves from these fear paradigms, so-called past fear experiences that we still hold in our body. that are still locked up in the water in our body as a memory, in our DNA. So it's really important for us to, start to acknowledge it, not to make ourselves wrong and judge ourselves for it, because that's really not the point of it. But as we're becoming more, how should I say, trained in this, or accustomed to it, and we can start to almost, how should I say, we have experience with it, we can start to direct it more consciously in a positive way. And so we can start to, be in the question. So for example, when something comes up, and a lot of what would be triggered, certainly for me, has been anger, and underneath the anger is actually immense fear. So we see it as anger, but actually the anger is covering up for very, very deep-seated fear, where we didn't feel safe, where we maybe have memories of where we were killed, or things were just really not pleasant. And so that aspect of ourselves comes up as a memory to look to protect us, and it makes us react. So to deal with this fear, and to make that conscious choice to say, no, I'm not going to allow this fear to control me. And how can I respond differently, where I don't have to go into reaction, into defending, into attacking. These are all just very natural responses when we're in fear. But this is coming from our very primal brain, as it were. And to be able to go into that moment of pause where we go, okay, I'm going to have a sacred pause. And how can I respond from our heart? How can I create something different now? Because when we respond in the old way, we just recreate the same energy. And in a way, we almost recreate what I call karma. It's not the old karma, but it's this cause and effect. So, for us to really start to notice, to become the observer, which is what all this, the shift into the Aquarian is, by being able to detach to some extent, even when it's intense. And sometimes it isn't easy, and sometimes it's easier to be able to detach. But to have that intention to say, how can I become more the observer of myself, without judgment, without making myself wrong, but say, wow, I wonder how I can respond differently in this. I know what my normal way of dealing with situations would be, but how can I evolve this? So say, for example, because I come from, not because, but I have been really trained, and I've trained myself to be very much in my lawyer mode, because I was a lawyer, right? And I pursued that profession because I really had this thing that women were not equal, they were not heard, blah, 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 blah. And so let me do law, because then I have a system that actually absolutely validates me and puts me as an equal. And I can use this system of so-called justice to be heard, to create something different for me as a woman, for example. So, that served me up to a point, but in that I became very rational. I became very in my mind. I analyzed everything, became very much a mind response. And so, there's value in it, because I was forced to go out of my emotions, because I'm a Cancerian, so I would respond normally very emotionally, because I'm a very emotional person. So I trained myself to become more rational, to not just respond from my emotions, to think things through, and to communicate from a point of my intellect, which gave me a certain positive change of being more neutral, shall we call it. But at this time, I really am encouraging myself to go one step a big step further, and that is to now go be in my heart, to go even beyond being just neutral when I address the situation, to really ask, okay, what does my heart say? And my heart will be often telling me something very different to what my mind, my neutral mind, my logical mind tells me about a situation. And I may be doing something that seems contrary to that, that I may not be aware of yet. But you know what? When I do that, when I listen to my heart or my intuition, let's call it the intuition as well, because it's the same thing, I feel good about it. I feel like I'm not separating from the other person or the situation, and I feel a sense of connection. I feel a sense of community even, like, this is not destructive in the sense of separating and seeing this as outside of me, as almost like, I don't want to say opponent, but something like that, that we're not on the same side. So I would encourage you to really look at your own pattern. We're all very different, but this Jupiter going into Cancer is giving us a great opportunity to access these positive higher emotions, and these positive higher emotions come from the heart. It's this aspect of human that we can feel tenderness, we can feel kindness. That's very Cancer. We can nurture ourselves, we can be kind to ourselves, we can look at others differently and go, you know what, they may have a different experience of life and they are reacting and responding differently, and we can communicate about this because we are in the sign, the sun is in Gemini obviously at this time, and Gemini is about communication. So we can start to communicate in a higher emotional way, where we are more aware of our own impact, we are aware of the impact of others, and we can communicate about it, and we can find some common ground where we can create something more. We can start to co-create, and we can get out of the fear and the need to control everything, the need to control our life, the need to control everyone around us, the need to control our environment, our home. We can start to do it through creation, co-creation with the earth and co-creation with each other, and starting to create community. So, I started this just Facebook group, very simple. It's called the Sacred Earth and Storm School Hub. And for me, it's very much about we all are, and everyone is drawn to do this and doing this in so many ways to create community. And what is community? Have you ever thought about that? I was thinking about it quite a lot, and I thought, what defines a community? And for me, it's something about people coming together where they are in a way like-minded. They may not be very alike, but they have a common purpose or they have a common goal. And that goal is about growth, because we are on this evolutionary journey of growing. We are becoming new humans. We are moving into territories that we have never been before. And so I just want to finish on this note and just know that, at this time, there's a lot of disorientation. If at times you feel a bit lost or even lonely or separate, or maybe concerned about the future, about your own future, about your safety, security, financial security, because you see things that used to work, so-called work, just no longer working, and you kind of at a loss as to, oh my word, what am I supposed to do now? Just know that this is part of a process where everything is, the old is breaking up. And this is a good thing. But what you can do is to keep on holding a focus of balance, to align with a positive mindset as much as you can, that's staying out of fear, Every morning when I wake up, my body often goes into fear a lot. And I just go, body, I love you. But you know what, body? I'm not doing this fear anymore. I'm out of here. I'm choosing something else. Body, let's align to a different timeline where there is no fear. Because this fear is old paradigm. This fear is part of the old systems of control. And I'm not choosing this anymore. I'm an infinite being. I am powerful. And I don't have to be controlled by this anymore. And body, let's do this differently. And it's like a practice. It's a mindset to start aligning, creating a new habit, a new default habit where, we just will not be in that. The body just will not be in the old memories of the past. That, as we said, it doesn't really exist. It's just a memory. But we don't have to stay there. It's not relevant. It's not relevant for now. And as we're in the eternal now, we create into the future. We're receiving from ahead what's coming towards us. So really know that, if you can keep that balance, you will start to broadcast this into the world. And this will become a resonance that's a contribution. That's a contribution to the collective and to everyone around you. And just know that at this time, with Jupiter is such an amazing example of this at this time in Cancer. There is a massive expansion that's happening at the moment of your life. Believe me, that a much greater life is actually at this moment being formed and being created on many levels by you and your infinite being and all the beautiful forces, the earth, the stars, the galactic energies, the planetary influences, the evolution that we're going through as a planet. And that is all there. But this year is a year of really sticking to it, applying ourselves, doing what is required, because we will reap the harvest of it. We are already starting to, but it takes so-called time in this dimension. So just know that, you are creating an amazing life, and it will start to show up more and more. And this is going to be a much greater life than you've ever had before.